Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hey, what's going on, Lopez? Good to see you. Whoever else jumped in. Let me see. I'm going to be interviewing one of my former clients today and also a group member. Let me just figure out, give me one sec, guys. Let me just figure out how to do it. I always get it confused. I know I did it last week. Javier, good to see you, man. Let me know what's new in your corner. Lopez as well. Let me see where I'm going to be interviewing my client, Danny. Hey, what's up, Javier? Let me know what's new, man. I haven't seen you in a long time. Hey, good to see you. Whoever else jumped in, let me message him, okay, guys? Give me one sec. My fault on this one. Definitely. Hey, Danny, I don't know if you can see me. I saw that you joined the group, Danny, but I can't for some reason. Can you type something um, in the chat? And then I'll be able to, I think I'll be able to see you and then tag you from there. Hey, Danny, what's up, man?
We did.
I
Uh,
thought I thought I thought for sure it wasn't going to work out, but luckily Vince like saved the day. I
oh,
presume like everyone is on their phone. I forgot people still use a desktop and laptop. I didn't even bother to think of
I
that as the solution.
was like, oh, I could like get better lighting. I could see it better. But sorry, everyone. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So we'll just do like a casual coffee shop talk today. I know we trained. Honestly, I always come unprepared for these freaking podcasts all the time. But I think we trained in 2000, or was it in 2001?
It was. We started in fall of 2020, like in
Okay.
November, no, or December 7th, 2020. I don't know
Okay.
why that's when we had
Gotcha.
started. And then
Iron
go ahead.
Ironically, I always get like the most dedicated people that come like December and November, when all the holidays, that's when I know they're serious. It's like when the holiday season is around the corner and they're like, man, I want to get shredded now. I'm like, dude, this guy's on a mission. He's not messing around. So,
Yeah, I was like, but I was like at the beginning, it was really hard. I was like really struggling at the beginning because I couldn't like just stick to a routine at all. Like even though you had like planned out this beautiful routine and I was super into it, it was really hard at the very, very beginning. And then like on New Year's, I was like, enough is enough is enough. Um, and then we had like 4 or 5 solid months
yeah,
to
yeah.
to that picture. Uh,
Yeah, so some background. I'll let kind of Danny take over and tell his story and kind of shoot some questions here and there. But some background is so Danny just informed me we trained in December of 2020. So his trainer doesn't even remember, but that's okay. I have it all in a folder, so I'm good at keeping track there. But if I remember correctly, you ended up moving from New York to LA. And I don't know how long you're living in LA, but if we can kind of go into some background of maybe like a few months way before you even reached out, like kind of your background from there, and then we'll just kind of go in chronological order and stuff of that sort, just to kind of have some kind of timeline thing going on.
yeah, no, I started I moved to LA in 2019, but I was flip-flopping between New York and where I am now. I'm here for family stuff, but like from New York and LA for basically all of 2019, and then in 2020, I came to LA without really like a real set job situation, which just added this whole other level of stress because I was taking all these crazy jobs, driving Lyft at night, like doing, like the hustle. Um, then in 20, obviously, the pandemic happened. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when there was like this drama, I was like, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to kick it into high gear. I'm going to start working out. Like, and I created, like, I relied on all these like old routines I used to do, but nothing was sticking. And then when it felt like we were really going to be in this for a while, I just like went into a darker into a darker place and just kept like eating and binging and eating and binging and was living with really good friends, but like I had no gym, I had nothing to really anchor me. I had no training, like trainer, no guidance. And then I saw you on Facebook. I think you were mutual friends with somebody,
I
a
think it was
friend,
Brenton, right? Brenton
Brent.
Carter. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Um,
good guy, nice guy. So
he's a really nice guy. And is totally transformed. And And so then I reached out to you, and you were just really wonderful and open and had this really methodical process. And at first I didn't really understand how it would work online, and it really, really worked online. Yeah.
Well, I know you had like a lot of in-person trainers in the past, like I have even for myself. I've had a lot of mentors over the years. Um, I know that's one concern for a lot of people. What do you feel like was going through your head? Like, oh, how could online work and stuff of that sort? Or did you even have any of those thoughts?
No, I mean, I really, I was, I was worried that I wasn't going to get, like, that I was kind of going to be wasting money, that you were going to be giving me routines and then not really giving me any guidance on what I was doing or feedback, and that I was going to be kind of left to my own devices. Um, but it was kind of better than in-person training. And we talked about this because a lot of the thing that I would fall into with in-person training was the BS of like talking to like kikiing with the person. It's like 30 minutes into my training session, and I have a really good friend and like not good abs, you know. And I think we became like, you fulfilled that thing of being a mentor, like that always comes with being a trainer, but we were always down to business, and you were able to, like, with the loom videos, like really point out where my form was messed up, and that was really great for me because I sometimes feel like I can feel what's going on in my body, and then other times, you know, especially with like leg stuff, like really I don't. Like that. So you were able to really help with that, like by just like drawing on the videos, which I had never experienced before. And when I told other people about it, they were like, "This is amazing. This is like such like what a cool novel idea for a trainer to do that." Seriously.
Well, can you also, I know a lot of people during COVID, they gained weight and they're like, well, I gained weight because I didn't have gym access. So I know you didn't have gym access as well. All we had, if I remember correctly, for like probably 80% of the program was like bands, a door pull-up bar, and a Swiss ball.
Yeah.
And I remember you did buy adjustable dumbbells like towards the last month or two, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. And I still do the workout. Like I still do, you get like the last like few months where
Oh,
we have the bowl weights, like I still do that program. I was just doing that this morning.
okay, cool. I do them all the time too. It's been around 20 plus years for me. Yeah.
No, yeah, we didn't have really anything, but it was really about, with fat loss, you were teaching me that it's really about the diet, a lot of it, and not so much about, and keeping your body moving, but not, it's not so much like you can do a lot with a little, when you're trying to lose weight. Um, yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we're doing like 4 weightlifting workouts, 4 like band workouts basically per week, and then like 2 like walks for like 30 or 40 minutes around town. I think there's supposed to be cardio sessions, but I found out you're just doing the walks on month 4, but I didn't bother asking, which is okay. It worked out anyways. I like doing my 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night all the time as well. It's very relaxing and therapeutic for anyone that wants a low tech, like non-gym option just to stay healthy. Literally just do like 15 minutes in the morning, midday, at night. And it's like a huge like stress relief too, and like a good break in between like whatever's going on during the day, et cetera, et cetera. So
I
there's,
took like really, like I did like 2 hour walks because I was like trying to get the 500 calorie burning that you
oh yeah,
want.
that's right. We had a calorie goal with you. Everyone
Yeah.
is a little different. So I forgot exactly what we're doing on your program because it's been quite a while. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, your transformation even like surprised me. I knew would be able to get the weight off, but I didn't think you'd be like so ripped like at the end. So I was like, yeah. When I saw those final pictures, I'm like, holy smokes, man! I was really happy for him. So
It comes in handy for me. It's a great picture. Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, it was. And I mean, it was a real like it made me feel like amazing, Eugene, because I wasn't feeling so great about myself. Like I thought I had like made this giant move, which Brenton had talked about on his podcast with you. Like making these moves are really hard. Like I thought that it wouldn't be that hard. Like I'm from New York. Nothing, I could do whatever. Like moving was really hard, and it was just like feeling so out of place, and like having this accomplishment was huge. And it remains to be like, because then, after that, honestly, I had like a little bit of a 2 month like wishy-washing. Like after I met that goal, I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know if I could do this anymore. But like the program that kicks back in, like as soon as I recommit to it, you know, I feel like I can get back to the place that I was. And now I did a DEXO scan thing like a couple of,
Okay, cool.
and because now we can do those in person. I'm at like, I was at 14% body fat, 161, so a little heavier. I was like 140. I was like 149 or something like that when I was at that picture.
Hmm.
Um, but feeling really good and still doing the exact same program, pretty
No,
much.
14% is great. That's actually roughly where I'm at too. I think
I
I came in
thought,
at like 14.2. So, hey, like attracts like, like body fat percentage. So
yeah,
attracts like even that at an unconscious level. Well,
right.
can you kind of can you give like a breakdown in terms of I remember you're working like a couple of different jobs, plus you're running for office. Can you kind of give a rundown of how you um, made all that happen to give some ideas to the listeners that are obviously a lot of people have very busy schedules, which I recommend they drop as soon as possible, but not a lot of people would take it, but it's still possible, to attend to your health. Is just like more challenging, but you still were able to overcome the challenges. Can you kind of maybe give them some ideas of how you did it?
Yeah. I well for that period of time, for that 5 month period, like this was my priority. So it was like the workout was the first thing I would do in the morning, which was super helpful. It made me feel really accomplished immediately. Um, and I mean, well, okay, it wasn't the first thing because I'm a writer first, so I like would write in the morning for like 2 hours, and then I would work out. Um, and with the meal plan set, which was actually like I remember you talking a lot about like these systems that you want to create so that you take away the guesswork,
Hmm.
which was really helpful advice, really helpful. Um, because then once the meal plan was set, I didn't have to think that much, and I
Yeah.
just knew eat. And then that took a lot of stress, like the decision fatigue of having to choose what I wanted to eat, you know, um, and um, and the job thing, yeah, it's still a stressful thing for me. It's just part of my style because I write as my primary like source of income. I always have to like add into that income with like I teach sometimes. I I work for these producers. I was working for them when I was with you, I still work for them. And now I also freelance with an art dealer, the political office thing. So I was like, I was because it was the pandemic and we had extra time on our hands. We weren't, like I didn't have that much time, but I was like, I have some extra time. Let me like run for political office, and I won. And that was like a major thing. Like the campaign was a major thing, but basically, if I'm being perfectly honest, sleep has always it still continues to be my problem. Like I'm such an overachiever. I like will sacrifice that. But I noticed that I remember at the end of our time, you were like get pictures taken, and I got these pictures taken, and the photographer like really showed me how tired I was, and that really was a wake up call. I was like, and then you brought up again that like sleep deprivation is like being diabetic or like pre-diabetic, like if you take it too far.
Hmm.
So that's something I still struggle with, but I mean, I think the biggest piece of advice that was been successful for me is like keeping the food consistent is a major thing because I didn't realize how much time I was stressing myself out with choosing food or like beating myself up for going against what I wanted to do. And, so making that consistent is key. And then like really trying to get your workout in at the beginning of the day, so that way you don't feel, or I don't feel like it's a pressure on me, or
Like you got one more thing to do during that day. You just kind of get it out of the way, which I recommend for all busy people to do, especially if they have like kids or kind of like um, contract type work that fluctuates. You know, I'm like, hey, you know, between 6 a.m. and like 10 a.m., that's like your me time. You know, get up in the morning, get your workout in, get your meals done. And that way, by the time you show up to work, you're like fully awake. And more importantly, you have like a lot of your needs met, you know? So you don't kind of grow that disgruntled towards the people you're working with or the work you're doing, in the sense that like, oh, I wish I was doing this, but I got to deal with this person now, and they happen to be really annoying, which makes it exponentially worse. I mean, everyone has been there once or twice or a million times in some people's case. So you know exactly what I'm doing. And I always tell people like, I got this from a friend named Jator Pierre, but it really hit home to me. He's like, you know, you have to be selfish in life, because if you're not, as ironic as that sounds, if you're not selfish, um, it's hard to make any long-term work projects work or any long-term relationships work, because if you're not having your needs met on a consistent basis, you always grow like disgruntled towards that work or that person. Like many of us have dated someone that like your core values just aren't aligned, and you feel
right.
like your needs aren't being met. You know, you're not being like either communicated with the way you want to be communicated with, or like a big thing for me when I was dating way back in the day in college was like, you know, I wasn't into the bar scene. Not that anything's wrong with it. I wasn't into the bar or club scene, and it was hard for me to date people that were into that, because I felt like when I had to go there, you'd stay up late, and then it would mess up your workouts. And on top of that, I don't like the loud, anxiety producing like atmosphere, and you can't even talk to people because it's so loud. Like for me, some people are into that, and if they are into that, then it's for them for sure. But that's kind of the importance of having your needs met first, because if they're not, and especially if you're not having your needs met at like work, for example, and not having your needs met in a relationship, I mean, the human central nervous system hasn't evolved to deal with like low grade chronic stress very easily. I know we've gone over this already, but just to kind of touch on it lightly, I mean, the human central nervous system has spent like 200, if you count the 28 plus human species that have come and gone, probably like 2+ million years of evolution to be able to deal with basically high peaks of kind of like very stressful situations, like hunting a mammoth, for example, which is obviously dangerous and very stressful. But then, you know, for many months in a row, once you kill that animal and you have enough food for a while, there's like nothing going on. You just hang out in nature, in the sun with your tribe. You're like fishing. You're not like working these crazy hours, et cetera, et cetera. And then a few months go by, and once again, you have that huge peak of stress. But the low grade chronic stress, which ironically is most people that like go like, oh, you know, at least I'm not like being robbed or something like that. And for sure, that is obviously a dangerous situation. But the stress that really kills you and really kind of destroys your immune system and lowers the quality of your like physical and perceived health as well is that low grade chronic stress. You know, you're getting up, you got to get into traffic, you're getting some coffee. A lot of people don't know, but even driving a car is very taxing on the central nervous system, because you have to be like amped up to stay in the lanes. Like you always have to be awake, and you can't like zone out or anything, because obviously that's how car accidents happen. And, you know, you get to work, there's a lot of pressure in a lot of people's work. A lot of times there's also a lot of political drama, you know, different types of personalities, clashes. This person likes doing it this way, this person likes doing it that way. It's just not a good connection. Sometimes, a lot of times, just you have a boss that is very conditional. Like if you're not going to do your job today, you're going to be fired like the next day, and it's very stressful to live that way. And it's not like it's high stress, but it is that low grade chronic stress, but that's on 24/7, 7 days a week. And when you do have that disconnect in those kind of core values, when your needs aren't being met, which is what I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, it recreates that insidious stress that happens all the time. So that's why it's so important to be selfish and always have your needs met first if you want something to happen long term, whether it be a relationship or a career, and not burn out and be miserable and full of obesity and disease. because that's the kind of stepping stone for a lot of people. It always starts with that, and then it leads to a lot of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices as coping mechanisms, which leads to, like in our conversation today, because it's centered around fat gain or fat loss, fat gain basically. And fat gain is always important to see it as like a symptom. You know, it's important to see it as a symptom of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices, and not kind of the standalone kind of problem that wasn't caused by anything else, you know?
That's something that I noticed a lot, like in this year since working with you, but also looking back, that it was always this coping mechanism for me. Like the overeating was a way of really like trying to neutralize stress. And part of this journey has really been trying to find other ways to neutralize stress, which like the fitness really helps. I got back into swimming.
Okay, cool.
Something that we had, like, I dabbled in a little bit before when we were working together, but like I joined the team in West Hollywood, which makes me super happy. But like sometimes it's just, I have to like go take it, like I have to go put my head under a pillow now, like instead of eat, like it also like playing the tape forward. Like I keep thinking of that, like if I have this food, you know, I'm gonna feel good for like maybe 10 seconds, and then I'm gonna hate the choice I just made. That's also been helpful, is like just playing it forward and to like how I'll feel tomorrow, and how I'll feel tomorrow if I actually let my like achieve this goal.
Mm-hmm.
True to myself. And I've been thinking a lot about it's so great that you asked me to do this today, because I'm here in New York with family who are, I hope the background's not too loud, by the way. Is it loud?
No, I don't hear anything, so.
Okay, great. So I'm in my mom's apartment, and I'm with family in New York, and they're like the food pushers. Um, and I'm bracing for this weekend. Like, just not, I don't like the way I feel when I eat that food.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm scared. But I'm glad that you asked me to do this today, because it's like a reminder of, oh, all this work that I've done. This is the person I like to be. This is where I feel most me, and I can just say no. Like that's all I have to do, is say no, and prepare and take care of myself. Like I've meal prepped today, so I have food with me. You know, like all the stuff we've talked about, like just setting myself up for, like I remember you saying around the holidays that you were the kind of person that would just bring food with you to holiday.
Yeah, which my dad likes, because he's like, oh, thank God, because I eat so much. He's like, thank God I don't have to keep paying for you, you know? So usually when I go to my parents, for any of the listeners, I just kind of stop by a grocery store right before basically getting into their place. And I just buy like what I'll be eating anyways. And my dad cooks it for me. That way, you know, because a lot of people do like to show love with food, and that's okay to do that. You know, it's easy to kind of socialize around a table versus like, I think it's easy to go, like I do a lot of hiking with my parents, and it doesn't always have to revolve around food. There are other ways to show love and be social as well. That's important to consider. But even if you want to, you know, like one thing that's Danny's a great example of one thing you can do. I just stop by the grocery store and buy like whatever I'll be eating anyways, and then my dad cooks it for me. That way, he can still show appreciation and stuff of that sort. And
You also, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You go ahead.
I remember like saying that was very helpful. That like fat is not gained like that. Like also, and that like if I have like a dessert, like it's not going to destroy me. It's here that would destroy me. So like I've been saying that too, like or that too, that like, you know, because I've been dating finally.
Nice, cool. Well,
But
everyone's allowed to go outside now, so it's easier.
it's
How are the things in LA, by the way? Are things opening up, or what's the deal over there still?
oh yeah, I feel like nobody
Cares anymore?
cares.
I feel once the news stopped covering it, everyone stopped caring, you know, ironically.
I mean, there's Here, I feel like, because last night I went on the subways to go into the city and, like into New York City, and that you had to wear a mask on the subway. But in LA, it's kind of, yeah, nobody, I think the only place I've had to wear a mask was in a doctor's office. So,
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. You got a lot of sick people coming in there, so it's not too much to ask for there. But that's good. So the gyms are open and all that stuff?
gyms are open, but
Nice.
I go 2 days a week to do like the squat rack, or like basically like anything I don't have with those adjustable weights. But I work out like 6 days a week, which is probably too much. But like,
I actually went up to 6 days a week too recently, just to kind of change it up because I kind of got a little bit tired of 4 days a week. And I figured like, hey, I'm not working too much, so I can handle it. And if I just get like too tired any one of these weeks, I could always just diet back down. But it feels good, man, being there 6 days a week, just getting a good pump every day. I'm like, damn, I can get used to this. My shirts are stretching out. It's nice,
right.
you know. You know?
I'm conscious of like with swimming, I can like shrink because it's so much burning of calories, and I want to keep getting a little bit bigger. So yeah, I've been doing more like 2 days at the gym, and then the other 4 days I'm lifting using your program at home, and then I swim like 1 or 2 days a week. So
Nice, cool.
I'm,
That's a really good setup. I also feel like really alive when I'm like physically active every day.
oh my god.
I also started one thing that you might find helpful. I used to do this before in the past, but I got lazy with it. But I started it again, like maybe 2 months ago, and that's doing like 30 minutes of meditation post workout, every single workout, which is huge in terms of as I shared with you before, I had like anxiety issues in high school and college.
Yeah.
And if I'm not careful, it does come back, but I feel it's kind of subdued that anxiety, like even more on a consistent basis, especially when combining those workouts where you get those like endorphins running and you get that good pump. And you just kind of like, I feel like you just look better the rest of the day too. Like your skin looks more lively and like your shirts are really stretched out until like 2 p.m. Then they feel like a tent, but that's okay. You know, glory doesn't last forever, you know? You know?
That's a good idea too, because just like your breath is moving, your blood's moving after a workout, and if you meditate then, you're probably being you're more aware than if you did it like when you wake up in the morning. If I meditate, it's always like, at the very end of the day, which is or after I write or something.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I think I don't know too much about it, but I'm interested in learning more about it. Like one meditation technique I'm using is, you know how thoughts, they seem to be like bubbles. They kind of pop up out of nowhere and then they disappear. And then another thought pops up, and then they disappear. So I try my best to stay with it in between those thoughts, like that emptiness or that kind of spaciousness where it's like the thoughts really don't exist. It's actually like fairly challenging because your head keeps, probably people like me and you, our head keeps kind of spinning all the time. So if the first week for sure it was hard, but now it's getting like easier and easier to really stay in between those thoughts. And it's like, it's kind of weird. It's like, I guess I don't know what to compare it to, but if you were like in a tornado, the middle of it, if you just stood there, like there's nothing that could happen to you, supposedly. I haven't tried it, but that's what I saw in Hollywood movies, but it's like kind of that, staying in between those thoughts, those two spaces. And it's kind of really calming and relaxing. I feel sleeping wasn't that bad anyways, but I feel it's gotten even better since doing that.
wow.
So another kind of low tech thing that requires zero membership, zero money to do. And I'm sure it could help a lot of people, although it does take practice.
Nobody should spend money on a meditation technique.
No, how about all those meditation gurus that are charging 10K plus for one session?
No.
I'm like, no, man, I know how to breathe. Yeah.
My God.
Well, one other thing I started doing in terms of the automated systems that I wasn't doing when we're coaching, but I found really helpful is I had a pressure cooker, but I started using it more often. So one thing I started doing was basically the night before, I would throw all the food that I needed ready for the day before, or the next day rather. And I would just leave it there like simmering and cooking overnight. And then when I would wake up in the morning, it's pretty much all done for the whole entire day. And I keep it in there on warm. so it kind of stays warm. And since I work at home, I just kind of pick at the food throughout the day. And then I don't have to cook at all, like all day. And then you just kind of clean the pan at night really quick and then do it again. And it's that simple. And then when I go to if I do go to the grocery store, one thing I do to not even have to weigh my meats anymore or my fish is I just have them do it at the meat counter. So let's say as simple, you need like 1 pound of chicken a day, chicken thighs or something like that. If I'm shopping for a week in advance, I would go to the butcher and say, I need 7 1-pound packets of chicken thighs. And I just watch to make sure they measure it correctly. And then they give you 7 1-pound packets and you just kind of pick those packets out. So boom, it eliminates the need for even measuring your food right there also.
That's really smart. That's literally what I eat, a pound of chicken a day.
Yeah, so I started doing that and it's like, man, I don't even have to like weigh and I just kind of basically open that packet, throw it in the pressure cooker, throw some vegetables in there, throw a bit of rice in there or whatever I need for the day, turn it on the night before, I wake up in the morning, I get my workout in, come back, all the meals ready for the whole entire day. And I just kind of pick it throughout the day. It's easy as that, so.
That's really smart. I still waste a lot of time with cooking. I love cooking. So like
that's the difference, you know. I'm like, if you do love it, you got to spend time doing it, you know. But I'm not good at it, and I don't want to be good at it. So I create these systems to spend as little time as possible on it. So
I love just like, yeah, I make the same thing every day, but I just spend like an hour puttering at it, and it's meditative. But I could like wanted to save some time. The pressure cooker, you're saying. You mentioned that before. Yeah,
I use the Instapot. It's very popular.
Instapot. Okay.
It's like I think like 80, $90 on Amazon, maybe $100. I forgot exactly. It's been a while. But it's not too expensive for the amount of time it saves you, and also for the people with maybe a tougher time to digest meat products. It does really cook it very thoroughly well and make it very fine, so it makes it a lot easier to digest as well for anyone that has an issue with that.
I will try that out.
So, and it's always good to mix it up, you know, using the pressure cooker, Instapot. I still use the oven sometimes as well. I know I had that in the video in the program and stuff like that. So,
I still like that program, Eugene, is so like, and really honing in on the core values is really important, really a game changer. It really recentered me, and just like I still like meditate on this. There was this moment in December of 2020 when we were starting to work together and I just wasn't committing to the diet. And you said to me, you have to, like, you just keep getting in your own way. You just have to get out of your, which is like not the biggest like revelation, but for some reason, the way you said it and in that moment, it really hit me. And I think about that all the time. And like in my moments of meditation, I ask for that guide. Like I like ask the universe, please just keep me out of my own way, because it really is like that. If I'm looking back at my life or at any like obstacle, it's usually me that's in the way. It's not like some outside force. It's usually me or my thoughts about myself. Or so that was like a game-changing moment, really.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into the podcast. I'm curious, have you ever been confused by the labels in the grocery store? In Yevgeny's book, he demystifies the difference between caged, cage-free, free-range, and pasture-raised meats. He also covers how to avoid GMOs, source high-quality water, fish, supplements, and other related topics. It's a beautifully illustrated, non-technical read that comes with a comprehensive video series and other extended learning materials. Jump on Amazon and check out the book titled Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide by Eugene Trufkin. Now let's dive back into the podcast.
Yeah, I always tell people like, hey man, and this is actually a positive thing, although I've had some people kind of call me out or like make fun of me for it. And I'm like, hey, you know, you're just doing it to yourself. And that's actually like a good thing, because if you're doing it to yourself, you could also just stop doing it to yourself, like anything, you know, like anytime. And that gives the person all the power, which I feel like a lot of people fight back on, because that also puts the responsibility on you.
Yeah.
You can't kind of externalize the responsibility. Then a lot of people don't like that. You know, they get scared of that because it is stressful to have the responsibility on you, you know, but I feel it's also gives you all the power to make the change like whenever the hell you want. If you're hurting
Right.
yourself, if you're making yourself overweight, um, if you're working crazy hours and you're anxious, or even the whole thing like, oh, like my boss is making me nervous or something like that. I'm like, well, who's making you go back to work or buy all this stuff that requires you to continue to work to pay all for all that stuff? Like you're doing it, you know, and stuff of that sort. And there are, you know, there are some genetic variables to consider, but from my observation, it's very, very rare that it's like 100% genetics based. And it's like usually genetics kind of, as the saying goes, like loads the gun, but your environment and your interaction with that environment or perception in that environment pulls the trigger, you know? So it's still kind of, it still falls on the person and their personal responsibility, which I think is freaking awesome, because you can solve the majority of your problems. If you don't know the answer, then hey, I've had to reach out to many mentors over the years for random things that I didn't know the answer for at the end of the day, but they're always there, you know? And a lot of times you do got to reach out to someone, especially if you don't want to invest, you know, a couple of hours a week into reading books and taking courses yourself, which you could of course become your own mechanic in any subject, but you have to, you know, be realistic and be ready to invest a good like 5 years, maybe 10 hours a week at least, into learning that subject, so you have a good enough understanding to give you an appropriate solution to the problem you're having. You know, especially with human health, I find a lot of people are like, well, I need to go take my car to the mechanic, but they're always so reluctant to hire like a whatever, fitness instructor, life coach, registered dietitian. It's like, oh, that I'll figure out. The hardest thing in the universe to figure out,
Right.
which is the human mind and body, that somehow I'll figure out, but the car thing I can't figure out. I'll take to the mechanic, you know?
Right.
That's kind of the thought process. I guess one thing I would like to ask you personally, because I do this, I give, you know, the people the free Zoom assessment, the kind of discovery call, just to get to know them and see what they're doing, if I'm even qualified to coach them. And honestly, maybe like 50% of the time, the people don't show up, don't sign up, rather, not show up. They just don't sign up for the program. They kind of come in, they ask questions, and they're like, and most of the time it's actually the people that need it the most. They're the ones that are least likely to sign up for the coaching.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that, in terms of like possibly like for example, like where do you feel you'll be today if you never did the program from December of 2020?
Well, I think that what would have happened if I didn't do the program is that I would have kept doing what I was doing before, which was this mix of this cycle of real binging and like starvation, real binging, starvation, and like botched mixes of past workouts and training regimens that I'd had from previous trainings and, you know, swimming and all that stuff. I probably wouldn't have been so focused. I mean, like practically the thing that really changed because of your program was that I gained this like lightning focus. It was like as soon as I decided that I was doing it, like once I made that, I had this a current mentor, like a life mentor, me recently, that the relief is in the decision. That once you make the decision, it's over. Like there's a peace, right? Because decision, and that's like what happened once I like stopped fighting with you and just like made the decision to do the program. It was like this real lightning speed catalyst toward my goal. And the challenge since then has been to just trust the goal, like, or just keep trusting that process, and to not beat myself up if I fall off the beam somehow. But it's like I wouldn't have had that focus initially, and I certainly wouldn't have had the toolkit to keep coming back to it. Like, so I trained as an actor, and they used to say when I was in acting school that like the whole point of having acting training is not to like, is to prepare you for when you don't know what's going to happen. Like if you're in an audition and you are thrown, you have this training to fall back on. And so like, I feel like what you gave me was this training that if I get derailed, like for example, this past summer, which threw me off a little bit, my mother got sick. She's okay, but she like was in and out and in and out of the hospital. I was coming again with the traveling, like, and moving. I was coming back and forth and during the pandemic to try to like all of the stuff of like, is she gonna be okay? If she's not gonna be okay, but like, so that like my diet, my fitness, all this stuff kind of got like in a whirlwind. But then because I had this program, I just kept coming back to the program and coming back to the program. And because, you know, and so I think that that's the biggest benefit, is that you literally like hand over a program to your clients. It's not like you're cagey about it. Like you literally give it over so generously, Eugene. And like, so I still have those they're on my laptop, like that spreadsheet you gave me of like the workout and the links to the YouTube videos, which was like incredible, and the diet like macro composition spreadsheet, the schedule, my ideal schedule that you helped me craft, which I still look toward, and I'm like, how close or how far am I from that ideal schedule? I'm much closer than I,
nice.
You know, like especially now that things are open and I can go swimming, and you know, so that program, like just like being able to recenter like a compass is really the biggest thing. It's like people are hesitant about joining. I mean, like I totally get it. Like to throw shade on myself, like someone recommended that I work with an artistic life coach, and he was amazing. And I did a free consultation with him, and he sent me like the questionnaire, like his questionnaires, and I just never responded. And it's not because he wasn't great, because I really need it. It's like you said, like I really need the thing that you really need, serious. So with this, I needed it at that moment when we started working together, and I was very resistant. But I made the decision, and then once I made the decision, it was so. If you're on the fence, I think you just have to make the decision. And if you make the decision, it becomes really easy. It's the ambivalence that makes it really hard, I think. But if you make the decision to not be committed to your health, I think that you make a decision. It's okay. Like just make the decision. I think that's where the stress comes.
Yeah, that's true. And as long as you know the consequences of every decision, it's okay. And you're okay with those consequences, like genuinely okay with it. Like, I don't know, a simple example is like, oh, you know, I'm going to drink today. If you're genuinely okay with not feeling too great the next day, or maybe a little bit not too great even the day after that, then okay, you know, drink. But if you're not okay with that and it becomes a problem, then you need to kind of rethink that decision-making process. And it's like pretty much like, I don't know, like I wish I could make it sound more fancy, but that's pretty much all there is to it, you know?
Yeah.
So
that was something else I appreciated about you, is that there was like really zero judgment behind anything you said. Because sometimes I would feel with trainers that they were like being like, like, like good decision, but you never, made me feel that way, which being a real mirror is a real gift, Eugene. Because if like the best teachers or mentors or coaches I've ever had have always been mirrors. Like they've just like been non-judgmental at all. Here's what you're doing. That's the decision you made. That, what do you want to do? Like, do you accept the consequences of the decision you made? So thank you for that.
yeah, no worries, man. I'm on this journey with you guys. I mean, believe it or not, I'm still trying to, like I talked to you a long time ago already. I was working at 1.6 days a week, and it wasn't aligned with my values, and I was just anxious all the time, and just always like short-tempered, and didn't like that I didn't have enough time or energy for my workouts, which is like what I genuinely love to do. And it took me many years, I mean, to go from, especially with my friends, I have like pretty much all type A personality friends, and it was just so normal to work so much, I just thought that's just how it's supposed to be. But then I just had to start listening to myself, because it was almost comical, because I was telling my clients like to listen to their core values and not do that if that's causing them. And then I was doing the complete opposite. I felt kind of like a fraud for a while. And it took me like a few years to go from 6 days a week to 3 days a week. And then I went like, from 3 days a week in person to just coaching online now, which is less time intensive. So I'm able to do it just 2 days a week, and then focus on continued education 2 days a week. And then 3 days a week, just do like some random stuff that I feel like I need in my life at that moment. So for me, I'm trying to reconnect to nature a lot more these days. So I'm taking like an 8-month wild animal tracking course. So you go like one weekend a month to a different kind of national park or whatever, and they teach you like one of the weekends we'll be learning how to find bears. One of the weekends we'll be learning how to find like wild boar. One of the weekends we'll be learning how to find deer like out in the wild through their tracks and stuff of that sort. It's actually like, I thought it was going to be easy, but it's actually like a very hard thing to master, because on picture it's like totally obvious, but after rain and whatever, it's like you can't even see anything, but you're still supposed to be able to find these animals out of nowhere. But anyways, that stuff takes time, and I feel it's very important to always attend to that kind of feeling inside your soul, that whatever needs to be attended to at that time in your life, and it changes, as well. Like at one point it was like, I got tired of having that anxiety, social anxiety in high school and college, so I took a lot of improv classes and acting classes, not for the sake of getting into acting or anything, but just because to overcome that stage fright and that social fright and stuff of that sort. And then it was finding someone to date, which is time exhausting as well, So I had the time to do that with my schedule. And then now it's this nature thing, and I'm looking to slowly transition to kind of semi off-grid living. I started living off-grid with my grandmother, but then kind of moved more into living in society. But now I want to kind of try to live somewhere in between the two, and kind of merge the positives of both worlds instead of going to the extreme of either,
Yeah. So wait, you lived off grid?
Well, my grandma raised me for the first few years on an off-grid farm in Ukraine. Back then, it was the Soviet Union still. So it's been a long time, obviously, but that's how I grew up. So I grew up around, nature, biodynamic farming, which is what I promote even now through like my second book, for example. And I knew like I already had like a good glimpse of how to be healthy, because my grandma lived to 87. She only went to the doctors like one time to give birth to my mom. And that's it. She was full of energy. I mean, her husband died, I think like 10 years before she died. So she was taking care of the whole entire homestead herself in the 80s, which is like a pretty advanced age. But she was still moving around, still very healthy. And more importantly, like she mastered what I feel like even a lot of health mentors I've had haven't mastered. And that's like the peace of mind, when you're at peace with yourself and the world. So she even like achieved, I don't remember her not ever being that way, so she always had like a good lighthouse or like a base mark of measurement of where I should be kind of going towards, and I'm happy I had that, because if I didn't have that, it would be tough just using like the American health model as a reference, which I feel is not a good reference at all. It's just basically teaching people how to symptom manage while living in a swamp of like physical and mental pathology, instead of cleaning up the swamp and not have, or maybe getting out of the swamp altogether and just not having to deal with those endless lists of pathologies. It's kind of common sense to me, although I'm working on not doing that as well. But I'm always grateful to her, so that she kind of raised me that way. Oh, you kind of broke up there, Danny. What was the last sentence?
This loopy delay. Wait.
Oh, now you got it back.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't hear what you said.
No, I was just.
Oh. Vince, we need tech support again. I wish I can have Vince on staff, like at least part-time, 2 hours a week, just during these calls, that'd be awesome. But I think we got the bulk of it, which is good. Can you hear me? Can you do a thumbs up if you can hear me?
I
Hmm.
like two of you happening at the same time.
Maybe it's just bad reception at this point. Better services. Yeah, okay. There's like one service provider in my area. I think they got a monopoly on this damn service. But that's okay. Um, Danny, do you want to try to add anything, any remaining comments or anything? We could try to get it in as best we could.
Well, is my
I can hear your voice. It kind of comes uh, in and out. I don't know how to fix that at all. So
maybe I should come?
you want to try that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Try it. Let's give it a try. Vince, we need you to work your magic, man. Your computer skill magic. All right, guys, give me a sec. We're going to try to get Danny back in here. Reinstall Windows. I'm just using my iPhone. I don't think I even have Windows on this phone. All right, let's try to get Danny back in here. Oh, okay. Hey, is that better?
I'm back.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what happened is I think that my phone was like getting low in battery, and so this came up that was like, want to go to, battery saving mode, and I said no, and then there were two Eugenes that started speaking simultaneously, and I was like,
one is already enough, but then when it comes to two, it's like overload, man. It's like
sorry for all the tech. Where I'm like not this tech dumb. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering if you had any comments for anyone or anything else you would like to add. I'd be happy to cover it as well.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see, I wrote some questions here, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to kind of try to read these.
I mean, work with Eugene. I think that's the biggest comment. Or, like just make the decision to care about your fitness. It's like, I mean, especially if I'm a pretty cerebral guy, like I have these very sometimes intangible goals because I'm writing, or, like 2 years ago, especially, I lived this like political thing. And I just felt like a lot of these goals are very hard to reach and like super intangible. And so then having paired with that something that is super tangible that makes me feel like really good on a daily basis, that I can see progress in, I can measure progress in with my weight change, like that paired with an intangible goal makes the intangible goal feel possible because the tangible one's happening. So like if you're the kind of person that is like creative or has something that you're doing in your life that feels like really far out of reach, like fitness and health, like actually I think are a really great pair to that and can help you achieve those intangible things too. Like that's just something I was thinking that I would want to say.
Yeah,
because that's helpful.
No, actually, that's a really good way of thinking about it. I never saw it that way. I always perceived it as like, hey, no matter who you're trying to be or what you're trying to achieve, like always mental and physical health lays the foundation to being able to do any project long term. Because how are you going to accomplish something with like major depression or like super serious gut issues or super serious like joint issues, low back issues, neck issues? It's like it's always going to be a hindrance. You know what I mean? It's going to wear down your energy. And it just wears down like the quality of your life. And even if you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve, it's like if you feel like shit all day and look like shit all day, like what's the point? Like what's the point of doing that? So
I also just like have so much more. I'm sure COVID, like, and everything opening back up is part of it. But because I like the way I look now and feel good in my body, like life is so much better. It's just so much better. I'm having so much more fun. I'm taking more risks. I'm like asking people out on dates instead of being like really like cagey coy.
You're like, let's do dates via Zoom only.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
so much life. I just it changes everything. So
Cool. All right, Danny.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. It was good to see you again.
Uh,
And I'm happy that we're keeping in touch too, that you didn't just disappear. So definitely stay in touch. And always, if you need anything, just let me know. I'll be happy to help and stuff of that sort. So,
Work with Eugene, everyone, please.
okay.
So good.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you for jumping in. And everyone, have a good weekend, okay?
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you've ever had trouble losing weight, or you've lost weight, but still didn't have the ideal body or health you're aiming for, please feel free to reach out anytime and book an assessment. Eugene will work with you to cover your goals in detail, see what's holding you back, and go from there. In the meantime, feel free to check out the countless testimonials on Eugene's website in the link below. In the testimonial section, you'll notice everyone has various backgrounds, are of all different ages, and all have had different challenges in their life, but they all have one thing in common: they were all able to find their health and achieve their ideal body. You're also welcome to add yourself to the Facebook group in the link below. There you'll have access to the live videos that Eugene does weekly on Sundays, and other helpful content. Thank you again for tuning in.